Hi guys, welcome to today's video. So this is going to be a quick video over how to write your homework for these perfect squares that we started in class. There's a certain way that I want you to write the answers because it's going to help you later on when you do solve equations using square rooting. So let's start with the first one. So the first one's 324. So we're going to write it out as an equation. X squared, so x is what we're trying to find. We're trying to find what number squared will give us 324. So x squared equals 324. Now when you're given an equation and you have to when it's like x squared and you have to solve for x, the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. So you have to take the square root. Remember, you always do the same thing to both sides. So you take the square root of both sides. And the square root of x squared, these cancel each other out, and you're just left with x equals the square root of 324, which is positive or negative 18. And that's how you write it. Okay, so for 400, let's say x squared, so some number squared equals 400. Oops, didn't mean to write the square root yet. Cross that out. So x squared equals 400. We're trying to find the square root of 400, which means that we're trying to find what number, when you square it, will give you 400. So to figure that out, we have to take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 400 is 20, positive or negative. Okay, 121. We'll write our equation first. So a number squared equals 121. We want to find the square root. So take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 121 is positive or negative 11. Okay. The square root of 64. So a number squared equals 64. Now we're going to do the opposite and find the square root of 64. Square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 64 is 8. Positive or negative. Okay? 144. So a number squared equals 144. We want to find the square root. So that'll give us x equals positive or negative 12. Okay? 49. So a number squared equals 49. We want to find the square root of 49. So take the square root of both sides, and x equals positive or negative 7. 100. Write an equation. Take the square root. The square root of x squared, that cancels out, and x equals the square root of 100 is positive or negative 10. Because 10 times 10 equals 100. And so does negative 10 times negative 10. Okay, for 36, x squared equals 36. We're finding the square root of, so take the square root of both sides, and x equals positive or negative 6. Okay, 289. Write your equation. Now we'll find the square root. X equals, and I'll show you more of this in class, but if you have your calculator and you want to find the square root, you put the radicand in, so the radicand here is 289, and you press shift, and then see this little tiny yellow square root symbol? That's the button you press. So it's 17. Positive or negative 17. Okay, 81. Take the square root of both sides, and the square root of 81 is 9. $196. Finding the square root. I think it's 14. I don't know my perfect squares. 196. Yep, 14. Okay, 25. Write your equation. Now we're finding the square root. X equals positive or negative 5. Because 5 times 5 equals 25. That's all the square root is. It's just figuring out which number, when you multiply it by itself, will give you 25, which is 5. So let's see, what number, when you multiply it by itself, will give you 256? So some number, when we square it, will give us 256. In math, that's called the square root. So we take the square root of both sides, that cancels out, and you get x equals, let's do 256, shift square root 16. Now that can be positive or negative with square roots. Okay? Alright, now 9, write your equation, and take the square root. X equals 3. Alright, the square root of 4. We want to find what number squared will give us 4, so we take the square root. And x equals 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, 169. We want to find what number squared will give us 169, so that means we have to take the square root. So x equals the square root of 69. 169 is 13, positive or negative. Okay, 361. Again, we want to find the number that when you square it will give us 361. So to find that, we have to take the square root. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 361 is 19, positive or negative. Okay, last one, 16. Smaller number. Take the square root of both sides. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 16 is positive or negative 4. Okay guys, so I hope this helped. I really want you to be able to see that when you are like squaring something, the opposite of that is square rooting. So it's kind of like in an equation when you have at the end, you know, when you divide to get rid of the multiplication, it's kind of like that. So like here, but instead of squaring, we take the square root. So they're opposite, they're inverse operations of each other. That's what I really wanted you guys to see here, while also practicing your perfect squares from 1 to 20. So I will see you guys on Wednesday, and have a good day off.